the most appropriate way how male and female interaction should be taking place, because that's something that's, if you're among certain communities, it's very strict, and sometimes it's hard to tell. Like, I've been in situations to where there's males that won't even like look at you, and won't even speak to you, or just say salam, or and then there's some instances that you have a very, I guess you would say, respectful conversation and interaction with them. So what would, according to the Quran, what would be the most appropriate?
I mean, the Quran itself, it doesn't have instructions on that explicitly. The Quran clearly refers to situations where it talks about a woman coming to the Prophet ﷺ, complaining about her husband. It talks about the incident of Aisha, where it's clear that Aisha was interacting with what. So it is. The main instruction of the Quran is the instruction on modesty, and it has a and the primary one is lowering the gaze, and lowering the gaze is غض البصر, is an expression that basically means not gawking. I mean, not making a point to stare at someone with desire. That's what lower the غض البصر, or lower the gaze is. Now, in Najdi Islam, Najd is where Wahhabism emerged.
Okay.
And it's a desert area of Arabia, and bordering on Hijaz, but landlocked in towards the south of Arabia. And that's where Wahhabism emerged. Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab was from Najd. And just so you know, in Najdi, Wahhabi forces, with the support of British arms, because all their weapons were British, conquered the rest of Arabia and conquered Hijaz eventually, and founded the state of Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, the primary Najdi clan, there were two clans that, with the help of the British, commenced that rebellion, which culminated in Saudi Arabia, al-Rashids and Ibn Saud's, al-Sauds. And eventually al-Sauds vanquish al-Rashids, and they take power and declare the state of Saudi Arabia. But in Najdi Islam, because it's a Bedouin, old Bedouin, very conservative tradition, men and women did not interact at all. And when they spread their version of Islam, they interpreted Islamic sources to basically make their traditions the law. So in other words, it's their culture, but their culture became the law. Now, it's clear from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that the Muslim societies in Mecca and Medina interacted, men and women interacted extensively and freely. I mean, we have numerous stories about not just the role that someone like Khadija played, the Prophet's wife, but Khadija played a leadership role. We have numerous stories of her meetings with men, and her arguments defending the Prophet ﷺ in so many contexts. we have numerous stories about a woman that fought in the Battle of Uhud and that saved the Prophet's wife, right? We have numerous stories of the interaction of women in the marketplace. Um, we have numerous stories where women could even interact, attend public meetings, and the mosque were the area where they held public meetings, and women would come to public meetings and speak out in ways that were clearly not subservient. I mean, the very famous story of the woman who challenged Umar ibn al-Khattab and told him, when he tried to put a limit on how much dowry is paid and to limit dowries, she challenged him in the mosque and said, you don't have the right to do that. And he has that famous statement which says, you're right and I was wrong. So, these attempts for segregation, they're clearly emerged from a Bedouin Najdi culture, but they're also very alien to Islam. Segregation is problematic for a variety of reasons. Segregation breeds inequality by its very nature. It encourages men and women not to deal with each other as equals, and it encourages also that a lack of understanding and knowledge. How can you know the other if you don't interact with them? If men don't interact with women, they're not going to know anything about women, and vice versa. So we also, as I've mentioned in several khutbahs, we have so many traditions about women that would come up to the Prophet ﷺ, grab him by the arm, and a servant girl who came and grabbed him by the arm and had him come because she was worried that her employers are going to be mad at her because she was late in the marketplace. We have another one where a woman grabs the Prophet by the arm and takes him to intervene in a fight between her and her husband. So the evidence of interactions is so numerous. I mean, it is so numerous that it's a little bit confounding. But when you go into a mosque and you see men and women separated and not dealing with each other, you don't know where, it's very frustrating. Now, having said this, the anyone that studies the social habits of the culture we live in, I am constantly reminded of the wisdom of Islam in warning us against khalwa, against where you and a male who is not your husband go in a place alone, inaccessible to others. Khalwa in itself is not haram, but it is a makruh, meaning that it's disfavored, meaning that if you're putting yourself in a situation that if it leads to haram, you will have no excuse. God is going, you've put yourself in that risky situation. And I have to be honest with you, when I look at the enormous amount of the statistics on date rapes and sexual assault in our society, which is an epidemic, and it's a serious epidemic. And the percentage of these rapes that are committed by acquaintances or intimates, like everything, Islam the nature, you want to know what Islam is, it's like the Quran says. Allah created everything according to an intricate balance. Anything that goes one way to the extreme, you're away from the method of Allah. Method of Allah is a balance. It's moderation in everything. So if you segregation, that's an extreme. You know, the type of interaction where you forget that there is sexual enticement and that you can put yourself in such compromising situations where you weaken, that's also another extreme. And the path of Allah, as God reminds us consistently in the Quran, is it says, look at nature, study nature, and you will find that nature was created, everything from the planets to the plants to by an intricate balance. Your own life must be one that is led by this principle of moderation in everything. And we ourselves innately, intuitively know what is moderation. We know when we are putting ourselves in a situation that don't feel right. And that nearly feels like we are drifting away from a sense of tranquility in Allah. And that is a once you become and the more your piety increases, the more that sense, that intuitive sense, becomes more refined. You live with Allah. Allah is, as Quran says, أقرب إليكم من حبل الوريد. That is, He's closer to you than your jugular vein. It is not that Allah is some distant thing residing in the skies. Allah is constantly with you, and the more you go towards Allah, the more Allah enters you. It's a interactive dynamic. The more you just do things because you're told to do them, or because it's your culture, or because you're obeying someone, and the more then you don't give yourself the chance to know Allah, to have Allah walk towards you like you walk towards Allah. Moderation in everything. It is. And one final note before Martha give you a chance to translate, because I'm not stopping for that. But Islam was never about being obsessed with sex. It's like if you're obsessed with food, that's not Islam. If you're obsessed with sports, that's not Islam. The only thing you can be obsessed with that is Islam is books. You can be obsessed with books, that's good. But all other obsessions are not allowed. The fixation on sex is very unhealthy, and it's unhealthy whether you're fixated on it to do it, or fixated on it not to do it. Some people, and this is again comes from Najdi Islam, is that everything is fitna. They don't want to. Well, if you can't control your fitna, then you're a very weak Muslim. If you can't look at a woman and control yourself, or look at a man and control yourself, المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف. A strong believer is preferred in the eyes of God, is beloved in the eyes of God much more than a weak believer. And if you can't control your desires, then you're a weak Muslim. And that means you must work to become a strong Muslim. So اتقاء الفتنة, or avoiding all forms of fitna, as we see in Najdi Islam, That's very unhealthy and not Islamic. That's not the path. It's not the path. You guys want to translate?
That was quite long.
Yeah, I know. Maybe bits and
I
pieces.
just kind of summarize and you can help me. So la pregunta fue, ¿cuál es el comportamiento apropiado entre hombres musulmanes y mujeres musulmanes? Y entonces, bueno, Rosemary dijo que qué es lo que dice el Corán en cuanto a eso. Entonces el profesor Khaled responde que el Corán no tiene una respuesta específica a esa pregunta, sino que a través de el profeta Mohammed, que la paz esté con él, las situaciones se presentaban algo parecido, ¿verdad? Con esa pregunta. Entonces, cuando, por ejemplo, llegaban esas preguntas al profeta, entonces él daba indicación, pero en sí en el Corán no hay una regla específica. También habla de que la situación de segregación entre a las mujeres en sí viene de una tribu de los Nashdi, que es una tribu beduina, y ellos tenían esta costumbre como cultura de que los hombres y mujeres no interactuaban, ¿verdad?, entre ellos. Y entonces, bueno, eso se transmitió por muchos siglos y tal vez hasta ahora, ¿no? Esa situación de segregación que tiene su base en una cultura beduina de hace muchos siglos, que eran los Nashdi. Y bueno, también se comentaba que la separación de hombres y mujeres en la mezquita, pues es una situación un poco frustrante, ¿verdad? Y después habla un poco sobre el término hanwa.
Halwa. Yeah, yes.
Halwa.
Halwa. Halwa.
Halwa.
Yeah,
Halwa.
yes.
Halwa, que quiere decir halwa.
Hello means sweet.
It's hard to say the kha.
Ponerse en una situación a donde puede ocurrir cosas haram. Entonces, por ejemplo,
Halwa, ¿ese es halwa?
no halwa.
It's okay. Don't
Pronunciation
worry.
doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Sin el significado.
Sí, entonces ponerse en situaciones donde puede ocurrir cosas que puede
Llevarte a un pecado.
sí, exactamente.
Bueno, en general y como último, la moderación debe practicarse en todas las situaciones y en todo momento. Y también, y muy importante, saber que en el Islam no hay ningún tipo de obsesión o de un comportamiento que sea obsesivo. Tenga por seguro que no es Islam, pero sí puede tener obsesión a los libros, pero no otro tipo de obsesiones. Okay.
One thing is that the professor said that while the Quran doesn't say anything specific, it talks about lowering the gaze. And the lowering of the gaze is something important to share, right? Because what it means is not to stare. Like
Okay.
it's one thing to acknowledge somebody else's presence, but that's different from staring at somebody for desire, and that's what's prohibited. So if you want to,
Perfecto, sí.
Sí,
Sí.
puedes decir
Algo
eso.
que no dije fue de que el Corán menciona algo que se puede traducir en español como recato. Y este recato fue mandado para hombres y mujeres en el sentido de no mirar a alguien de una mirada, digamos, penetrante, ¿verdad? Se le puede ver a una persona, pero no stare, ¿cómo
O
sería?
insistente.
Insistente, no ver a alguien insistentemente, sino como un saludo, ¿verdad? Pero no de una manera insistente, que podría ser algo morboso, algo así.
O que se malinterpreta.
O que se malinterpreta. Entonces, eso sí está en el Corán.
One of the most Imam al-Jilani was a very famous scholar and theologian. It has a very wonderful essay about lowering the gaze and غض البصر in the Quran. And he says lowering the gaze is not the gaze doesn't come from the eye, it comes from the heart. And that if I am think about I see a woman who's my neighbor, for instance, and I sit there and I fantasize about her looks. That's contrary to lowering the gaze on the Quran, because you're giving into your desires that are not allowed to you. You know that this is not, she could be married, you could be married. While at the same time, I could sit and talk to you about theology, or you could be my student, or you could be my teacher, and we could talk for hours, and I look at your face all the time, and I never have a thought about you, and that is lowering the gaze. So it is, and when you say it, this is the wonderful thing, is that when you say it, your heart knows it's true, right? Your heart immediately, once you hear it, you say, wow, that really makes sense. I knew that all along. And you realize that what you've been told about the Wahhabi stuff, that it always sounded false. It always sounded like it can't be true. And that's what is we say the most essential thing that that the Quran tells us about Islam. فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها, that it is the fitrah, it is your intuition as a human being. As a human being, you are born knowing that you have meaning, you matter. You as a human being, you matter. It is oppression that comes and tells you you don't matter, right? It is people who come and degrade you and subjugate you and break you down and tell you don't matter. And as a newborn, as a child, if you don't meet that oppression, not only do you believe you matter, but you believe that there is meaning. You say, okay, I'm in this earth, I see other human beings. It must be that I matter and I have meaning. It is the intuition that Allah puts in all of us. Unfortunately, the fancy word for it is consciousness, and socialization. Socialization and consciousness, and society comes and says, no, it's all about buying clothes. It's all about buying this merchandise. It's all about being cool. It's all about playing by whatever rules that are put. Then your intuition starts being broken down. But it is فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها. Islam is the innate fitrah. It's an innate conscience, and that your relationship with your maker, your creator, is not an antagonistic one. Your creator is not there wanting to see you fail in any way. Your creator is like your loving partner if you embrace that partner. And that is the most powerful thing about the Islam that has been and that has flourished and again, that if you look at the Great Theft and you see, as I explained, the different parts of belief, the thing that I hear all the time is, even when the book was translated to Arabic, it became a bestseller in the Arab world, and so many Muslims in the Arab world would come and say, you know, this is what I always believed. I always knew that this is Islam. It's just that when you read it, you just expressed what I always knew. And so in many ways, I don't say anything new at all. I mean, I tell people what they already know. But maybe I give them the confidence by just saying it.
Okay. I'm just going to very short summary. Okay. Básicamente, el doctor clarifica el concepto que dice el Corán de que baje la mirada. ¿Se acuerdan de esa parte que habla de que hombres y mujeres, los dos, bajen la mirada? Este baje la mirada no solamente se refiere a los ojos, ¿no? Como te veo y bajo la mirada, no. Ese baje la mirada viene del corazón, de aquí del corazón. Entonces, en esa situación, alguien puede estudiar a solas con el maestro, ¿verdad? O con otro maestro por muchas horas y no tener esa situación de que porque están solos, ¿verdad? Algo suceda, ¿no? ¿Por qué? Porque están concentrados en la situación que están y no solamente imaginando cosas, fabricando cosas con la mirada, sino su intención viene del corazón. Eso es muy importante y es nuevo para mí también. Otra parte que habla es del el concepto de Fitrah. Lo hemos escuchado, el concepto de Fitrah es algo con el que nacemos, es innato, que Dios nos da. Y ese concepto de Fitrah se refiere a la tendencia, una, de que existe Dios. Intuitivamente se intuye de que Dios existe, también tenemos la tendencia a hacer el bien, ¿sí? Esas dos cosas. Pero, ¿qué pasa con esa Fitrah con la que nacemos, ¿verdad? Un bebé nace con eso, ¿verdad? ¿Qué pasa con el tiempo, no? Entonces, a través de su situación social, qué sé yo, esa intuición natural como que se oprime, ¿no? Como que se va borrando, ¿verdad? Y entonces, en vez de tener eso como cuando nacimos, se va borrando y ya se inclina uno a otro tipo de situaciones materiales o dinero y se va oprimiendo este sentimiento hacia Dios y hacia el bien. Y entonces de ahí que viene que tenemos que retomar la conciencia. ¿Sí? Tenemos que volver a tomar conciencia de esa situación innata que es el Fitrah, regresar a eso, porque si todos sabemos, ¿no? En donde vivimos, etcétera, etcétera, trabajo y demás, se va perdiendo esto, pero hay que tomar conciencia y entonces a través de la conciencia y socialización que debemos tener hombres y mujeres, pues se puede elevar esa situación.